Welcome to FPL Selection. Today we'll take a look at how the team is shaping up for Game Week 33, but first a quick look at how we got on in Game Week 32. So 52 points, another drop down to 270,000. It was another week where just a handful of players that I don't own scored some decent points, and my own differentials got nothing. So yeah, pretty disappointing again really. In the end, I decided to go for Raya in goal for the rest of the season, so I'd have double Arsenal defence. I took a punt on Solanke to be the goal scorer for Spurs under De Zerbi. Obviously, both moves didn't really pay off this week, but hopefully that'll work out well by the end of the season. The returns came with clean sheets from Diouf and Van Dijk, assist for Gabriel and Fernandes, and the 2 goals from Thiago. The team looks well set up for game week 34 onwards, so I'm still sort of positive, looking ahead. Also got the triple captain chip in hand, but I do need to have a good week this week on free hit 33, so, put myself in a good position for the run-in. So looking ahead now to game week 33, I've already pressed the free hit button for this week, as my team is sort of well set up for game week 34, and I've only got a few doublers in my current squad, so for me, it just seemed to make sense, attack this one. Be nice and aggressive, get 11 doublers out and sort of maximise the potential for a good score. I think it made sense really. And I'm going to look to take, quite a few risks on this free hit over what, you might consider a sort of template choice. I'm behind about 70 points in one of my mini leagues, and that's kind of part of my decision making as well, as I'm really hoping to win that one too. So from City, who I think, obviously have probably the best double, considering Burnley away is the second fixture. At the minute, I've got the 3 obvious choices in O'Reilly, Semenyo and Haaland. I think O'Reilly's obviously a wait and see. Going to have to see if we get any news, if he's available or not. But I think for me, he's probably the number 1 pick from City. I think they've got a really good chance of 2 clean sheets. I think the Arsenal game is going to be quite tight, low scoring. Arsenal don't really need to win, they just need to avoid losing. And I think, Burnley are struggling to score goals at the minute as well. So I think there's a good chance of 2 clean sheets. And obviously he's got the attacking threat on top of that. So I think if he is fit, I think he's a definite for me. And I think most people will have him if he is fit. You could go for Cherky if O'Reilly is out and just go with the 3 attackers. Which is, a nice option if you sort of think there's going to be quite a few goals in the Burnley game, maybe. But at the moment, I am seriously considering potentially going for a double defence. I really do think those clean sheets are a very good chance at 2. I'd be very surprised if they don't get 1 clean sheet in the 2 games. I think you could go, Nunez or Guehi in addition to O'Reilly. I think, or you could go Nunez and Guehi, to be honest. And then, to be honest, I would probably go with Semenyo then and leave out Haaland. I think Haaland's going to struggle to score against Arsenal. They do a very good job on him. So I think it's going to be more the wingers around him, the likes of Semenyo, Doku, that are going to be the goal scorers in that game. And then I think, with Burnley, it's going to be, obviously a deep block. And, Haaland's probably going to have to be the sacrificial player there to try and get the others in behind. So for me, I'm not that certain about Haaland having a big score in this week, so I am considering dropping him. But the only issue for me is just I'm not 100% convinced on the other options at the moment, likes of Brighton attackers, potentially another Bournemouth attacker. So yeah, it's something I'm considering at the moment, and it would certainly be very different to the majority in this week. Just depends how risky I'm feeling. If I see something with a bit more faith in the likes of Brighton and Bournemouth attack. From Chelsea, I'm going for 3 attackers. I just don't see a clean sheet for them in either game. None of their defenders really have much of an attacking threat since Rosini's been in charge. I think Palmer and João Pedro pick themselves. They're the 2 best attackers really for Chelsea and the talisman. The 3rd spot is up for debate. I think Enzo's a good shout. I'm pretty sure he's going to come straight back into the team and play both matches. But I think the alternative is potentially going for Esteval. He's proven that, when he does play the minutes, he will get returns. He's obviously a really exciting player as well. Likes to shoot. Got the potential for assists as well. So if I'm looking to go, a little bit more differential to try and make up the ground, he's the sort of pick that I need to make. And I think, there's every chance Enzo could score well in this double game week. But, if I get someone like Esteval in and, he gets, a couple of returns, it's, those points are just for me and, going to make up some ground. So I am considering him. But yeah, I'm just going to see sort of the team predictions and press conferences and just see if I can get a feel for how many minutes he's going to play. And from Bournemouth, I think Senesi and Hill make a lot of sense. They're both great for DEFCON. Got some set piece threat as well. And I think they've got a good chance of at least one clean sheet in this double. I think Leeds potentially, if they win against Wolves, they could rotate quite heavily ahead of their FA Cup semi-final. So, maybe they're not going to be, much of a threat attacking wise against Bournemouth. I've got Krupi in my draft as well at the moment. Certainly the most riskiest punt of this draft. I just think when he's on the pitch, he is getting the goals this season. I think he's got 9 or 10 league goals now. His minutes are, really low for that return. It's a very good return for the minutes he's played. So, even if I don't get the 2 starts from him, I'd still expect him to play, 100 minutes or more over the 2 games. And with what he's shown, in terms of his finishing, he doesn't really need many chances, and he can also smack one in from a distance. So I think he's going to be quite low owned. I don't think most people on free hit are going to pick him as a forward because I think the likes of Calvert-Lewin, along with João Pedro and Haaland, are going to be quite popular. So yeah, I think I'm quite excited by that one, and I might just have him up front, I think. If I do decide to go for a second Bournemouth attacker, which, would be in the case if I did end up on like a double City defence, I'd probably drop Hill. I think Senesi's he's been quite good for me this season, certainly earlier in the season. He's got eye for a pass and he's very good in set pieces. He's a real threat. So probably drop Hill, and then I think I'd go Ryan over Tavernier as a second attacker. I just think he's more likely to go off big in a single match, whereas Tavernier is kind of a more steady Eddie type pick. I know Tavernier's, got the penalty share with Krupi. I just think he's a young lad. He's got a lot of potential. I've seen a bit of him in Brazil, and he's a goal scorer, and he does like to shoot. So, if he just has a very good day, he's one that could get sort of 2 or 3 in a single match. So, again, it's another low-owned pick with, a good chance of, making up some real ground if I do get lucky with him, getting a few points. And from Brighton, I think Hinshelwood is going under the radar a little bit. He's been playing as a number 10 for sort of the last 6-7 weeks. He's been quite unlucky not to get a few more returns. Looking at his goal involvement, and just watching him play, he's just one of those players that he's always in the right place. He gets himself on the end of things, and I do think, he's got a good chance of picking up a few returns in this double. I also like Gomez as well, but I think Hinshelwood's probably a little bit safer for minutes. I think any of the Brighton attackers are a bit of a punt as the fixtures aren't that great. I just don't see Spurs continue to be so poor under De Zerbi. I think they're a little bit defensively better in his first game against Sunderland. And Chelsea just aren't great at the back. But, surely they've got to improve. They're trying to get in the Champions League. You'd imagine with the quality of players they've got, they should, put up a bit of a better performance defensively going forward. I think it's the same story with the Brighton defence, and that's why I've got Verbruggen just on my bench at the minute. I don't think I'll be playing any Brighton defenders, to be honest. Just rather go all in on the likes of City, Bournemouth or Leeds is where I'm looking at the moment. And from Leeds, as I said, I think defence is the way to go with them. I do think they might rotate their attackers, especially the likes of Calvert-Lewin, who historically, hasn't been starting 2 games in sort of quick succession. And that Bournemouth game, potentially could be quite a rotated team. FA Cup semi-final on the following weekend. So, I think defensively I'd look at Leeds only with that. Bogle's kind of the exciting pick. Gets forward a lot. He's got a good ball into the box. Gets on the end of things. I've seen he's had quite a few chances this year to score. So probably a bit more attacking. But if you want something a bit more steady, then I'd go for one of the centre backs, either Bijou or Strauch, both decent for DEFCON and got a bit of a threat from set pieces. I really like the look of Goodmanson against United on Monday, but I do think the fact that he's just come back from injury, there's a good chance he probably won't start both of the games in the double. Obviously, I haven't included any Burnley players. I just don't see any good assets from them. Defensively, you really think you're going to get a clean sheet? I don't see it, to be honest. Especially the likes of Forest are still fighting for their lives as well. Obviously, Man City, you'd never expect that. Just, they don't really have a talisman. I think Fleming's been decent this season, but sometimes he gets randomly dropped. So, yeah, I just don't think it's worth going there, to be honest. For the captaincy, I think Haaland's the clear choice. Obviously, with City having Burnley in the second game, I do think that Arsenal game is going to be tight, and I think Burnley will put up a big defensive wall. So, yeah, I think if I was looking elsewhere, I mean, Semenyo, I think, personally, I think he's going to get more than Haaland in these two games. I think he's going to be quite important. Um, and then I think Palmer is probably the other sort of really explosive player in this draft, the potential to score big. He's got good history against Brighton as well. I think he got his 4 goals and a half against them. So, he's one that in any match you can get something big out of Palmer. And he has said recently that he's, up to full fitness now. And yeah, so I am tempted by Palmer. I think if O'Reilly was fit as well, I'd be tempted by him. Like I said, I think he could be City's best asset in this double. With a good chance of the 2 clean sheets and obviously the goal scoring potential, where he just keeps getting himself in the centre of the box. But yeah, it's obviously a bit dodgy with him with the injury news, unless we get something crystal clear that he's going to play. So I think, yeah, all in all, I think if Haaland is in my draft, I'll probably captain him. But if I do decide to go without him, I think Palmer's going to be the one, and then probably vice captain Semenyo. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.